And I have to say, I have never met anyone in politics or just in the culture in general or in business that I respect more than Carly Fiorina. She really is, for the Susan B. Anthony list, the model of what should be in the political arena, and just as a citizen engaged in politics. Carly, I know you're tired of hearing it, so you can just shut your ears. But one of the things that we have been in the same place, and even with my family, have told them about you, is I ask the question, like, how is it that you are the person that you are? How are you the person that has managed to break down so many barriers, push out so many ceilings in the world that you've lived in? And I believe there are two things. One is, Carly, that you learned how to think at a very young age. You had a very good education, and I tell my children, emulate Carly Fiorina and get a medieval history major, and then go on to engineering and business at MIT and Stanford. Use that as an example. Learn how to think and then know how to apply that way of thinking to what you do. To all that aside, I will say this that there was no one in the Republican field who was capable of doing and did what you did when the videos came out. And Carly really congealed the whole pro-life movement in stepping up immediately without asking anyone on her own leadership and said, this must stop, and went on The View, told Whoopi Goldberg how she ought to think, and she got some pushback. Katie Couric, every single outlet with complete composure and going on offense, and in a way that is just so winsome. So that's the end of my introduction. But I thank you, Carly, for joining us and for encouraging everyone to get involved in this election.
Well, thank you, Marjorie, so much. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And Father Frank, thank you as well for having me. And good evening to all of you, fighters for life. If I may begin just to tell you a little bit about myself. First, let me tell you about why I'm pro-life, because I have to say that there are people who, at least initially, were sort of suspicious when I would say I was pro-life. And maybe it's because they knew I was a chief executive in Silicon Valley of a big technology company, and, Silicon Valley CEOs are supposed to be pro-choice. I don't know, but allow me to say that while I was raised that way, I didn't really think about it, honestly, all that much until, as a young woman, maybe 22 or 23, one of my dear friends asked me to accompany her to get an abortion. She had decided she wanted an abortion, and we went to a Planned Parenthood clinic. And I recall vividly that she was given no choices, no options. There was no discussion of what else she might do. And I also recall vividly what that day did to her, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. She was sort of never the same after that. I then met my husband, Frank. I met him 34 years ago. And as I got to know his family, I learned from his mother that she had been told to abort him. But she was a woman of great faith and great courage, and she chose to bring her son into the world. She spent a year in the hospital after his birth. But her son, of course, became the joy of her life, and he's been the rock of my life. And I've thought many times about how different my life would be had she made a different choice. When we got married over 30 years ago, we tried for quite a while to have children of our own until I was told I could not have children of my own. And so I learned in a very different way how precious a gift life is. Of course, I also come from the world of science and technology, and so I know, as so many Americans do not yet know, that the DNA in a zygote is precisely the same DNA as the day we die. And over the course of this campaign, I have visited pregnancy centers, and I have been with women as they got their ultrasound and seen the beating heart of a precious life, and know how much difference it makes to see that possibility. I did start as a secretary, a little 9-person real estate firm, and went on eventually to become the chief executive of what we turned into the largest technology company in the world. I have to tell you, I've been told no all my life. I've been told by people it couldn't be done. You can't get it done. The odds are too great. And, of course, this can be done. And all the way back to Marjorie's point, we can defund Planned Parenthood, and we can pass the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. And when Carly Fiorina is in the White House, we will get those things done, if not before. I am stunned, I must tell you, as I travel across the country and talk to voters every single day. I am stunned by the animus of Planned Parenthood. I am greeted by shouting Planned Parenthood supporters all the time. And one of the reasons I think they show up at my rallies is because they know how powerful my voice is on this issue. But I'm stunned, I must say, by how little the American people know about what's really going on, about how extreme the Democrat Party's position actually is, by what is happening in Planned Parenthood clinics. And I think it's one of the reasons the pushback is so extreme now, is because we are really endangering the central premise of the pro-abortion movement. I am proud. Sorry, I think somebody needs to put their mute button on. We're getting a lot of feedback, but I see the vitriol in the Planned Parenthood movement all the time, and I think it is getting stronger, not weaker, because they know we're winning. They know we're winning. I also want to comment on something else Marjorie said. She talked about going to women and some Democrats to really bring them over to our side. And I must tell you from personal experience that that is possible. Before I decided to run for the presidency, I led a political effort called Unlocking Potential. And we were very specifically focused on women in 5 key states, Colorado, North Carolina, Virginia among them, to bring them to the conservative point of view. And I can tell you how powerful it is to educate people about what's really going on, how powerful it is to let men and women know that this fight is winnable, and in fact that we are winning it. I'll bring my comments to a close here in just a moment so I can take some of your questions. But a couple weeks ago, I rolled out my blueprint for taking our country back. I think we have reached a perilous and pivotal time in our nation's history where politicians have been talking about the same things for decades. A lot of politicians have been talking about the pro-life movement, frankly, for decades. It's not just that. It's so many of our festering problems. I think we need to remember who we are. We were intended to be a citizen government. I think we need to take our country back now. And one of the important platforms of taking our country back, I have 6 key things that we must get done early on in a Fiorina term. One of the key items on that blueprint is restoring the character of our nation. The character of our nation is being undermined. It is being undermined by our continued slaughter of innocents. It's being undermined by our unwillingness too often to stand for religious liberty. And so as the central tenet of taking our country back, early on in my presidency, we will restore the character of our nation by standing for life and by restoring religious liberty. We need to do other things. We need to cut our government down to size and hold it accountable. We need to get our economy growing and going again. We need to lead in the world and defeat our enemies, starting with ISIS. But we must also restore the character of this nation, and that means standing proudly for life. You can count on the fact that I will continue to do that. I have been a fearless fighter all my life, and I will fight for life right up to the White House and from the White House. It is time, citizens, we take our country back, and that begins by standing for life. So with that, I will stop, and I think Father and Marjorie, we can open it up for questions.
Well, Carly, we're all aware that you will be standing on the stage tomorrow night, and there will be some men there that are vying for the presidency as well. Each of them will be claiming, and discussing certain philosophical points and discussing what their policies are. We hope that will be what it is. And you always seem to manage to get to that, no matter what kind of baiting comes from the moderators. But one thing that's often missing is, I think, core to the question from Allison from Chicago. And she's asking, as president, given what we know that you love and what you want to do, what will be your power as president of the United States, and how will you use that to protect the unborn? What do you intend to do when you become the president for the unborn?
Well, first, before we get there, we need somebody who can beat Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
It is vitally important. We must beat Hillary Clinton. And I must tell you that I think there is nothing more powerful to stand up against a pro-choice woman than a pro-life woman. It is also true that people can count on, one of the reasons that I laid out my blueprint is because I want to be held accountable. In politics, we don't very often hold people accountable. They say things, and then they do something different, or they do nothing at all. It's why we have so many festering problems in this country. We've been talking about the same things as conservatives for a really long time, let us be honest. I think we need a real leader, a tested leader, who has a track record of doing. So here's what I will do, and here's what I want people to hold me accountable for. If President Obama vetoes our attempts between now and the election, which unfortunately, sadly, he may, I will deliver a budget that defunds Planned Parenthood. I will nominate pro-life justices. I will get the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act passed. And let me tell you one of the reasons why I will do those things. Because I know as a tested leader that in order to shatter the status quo, you need to put pressure on it. Citizens have real power. Citizens, particularly the citizens on this call, pro-life citizens, can exert power on the status quo, that is the political class of both parties, that talks a good game, but that actually has disappointed us over and over again. And so one other thing you can hold me accountable for, each week I will go into the Oval Office, and in, say, the weekly radio address, I will ask my fellow citizens to take out their smartphones. And I will say, do you think it is finally time that we pass the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, just as one example? Press 1 for yes on your keypad, press 2 for no. You see, technology has given us an app for citizen government, quite literally. Technology is a tool that I'm going to use to focus the power of the citizens of this nation on the vested interests and the status quo of the political class. And what I know as a leader is when you focus enough pressure relentlessly enough on the status quo will yield. And so that's what we're going to do together. Together, we can restore the character of this nation and stand for life over and over and over again.
And that is exactly what I think partly we've been seeing, but we need, in terms of accountability, we've seen some come from the grassroots. And there have been a number of senators elected that I think we not only are holding them accountable, but they are holding themselves accountable. They're doing a pretty darn good job, but it cannot be done without a strong president of the United States of America. And so getting involved in this election, everyone who is on the phone now, please take a look at your screen and click on the button that allows you to sign up to make phone calls in these battleground states so that you can get involved. If you're worried that you don't know how to get involved, don't worry. We have plans for you. And Carly, there are two questions that have just come in. One, I was thinking myself, actually. This is from Judy Bullcroft from North Olmsted, Ohio. She says, I viewed the interview recently aired between you and CNN's Mr. Cuomo. I deeply admire your calm and collected responses, especially when he compared the Colorado Planned Parenthood shooter with conservative pro-lifers. Do you have any advice for those of us and how we can emulate that and who find it difficult to respond under pressure? How do you find the words to so adequately deflate such attacks?
Well, first of all, thank you for all of those kind words. You know, the truth shall set you free. We all know this. We read it in the Bible. The truth shall set you free. And one of the things that I remember when under attack, and if any of you have seen that interview, you will see Chris Cuomo on CNN, you will see what is typical now of the pro-choice movement, just an utterly vitriolic attack. They do not want to know the truth. They want to ray from the truth. One of the things that I remember when faced with a situation like that is the higher they amp the vitriol, the more afraid they are. That's why they're amping it up. The truth shall set us free. So as long as I am speaking the truth, what is there to be afraid of? And I speak the truth. I think so much of this, if you worry, if those of you on the phone worry about whether or not you'll find exactly the right words, don't worry so much about finding exactly the right words if that's what you're worried about. Worry about, concentrate on speaking the truth. Speak what you know to be the truth. That's a powerful thing. It's always a powerful thing. And that's what I will keep doing. No one is going to frighten me into silence. You know, for any of you who've watched that interview, you know you have a fearless fighter in your corner. And that is what we need to win this election, and it is what we need to restore the character of this nation.
I think of you as to steal a phrase from the book, but I think of you as leaning into every debate, and that is really true. And I think to me, it's also symbolic of where the debate has gone with your help, and that is from a completely defensive posture in the last presidential election to a leaning in and more offense, not offensive, but on offense. And that is what a winning human rights movement must have. It's a leaning into it and a fearlessness that you've had from the beginning. I have a question here from Brian in Indiana. So we'll have a highly contested Senate race there. So everybody in Indiana, pay attention. He's asking, what should the ordinary pro-life American person do on the day that President Obama vetoes the reconciliation bill?
Well, don't lose heart. Redouble your efforts to make sure we get the right pro-life candidate as our nominee. And I say it that way because we have to beat Hillary Clinton. Do not underestimate. I mean, we all know that Hillary Clinton is a flawed candidate, but do not underestimate how powerful she will be. She will be the nominee of her party. She will have more money than anyone, and she will inherit from Barack Obama the best ground game in political history. She will be formidable, and she will run on the historic nature of her candidacy. She will play the gender card all day long. She will talk about women's rights and women's issues. So, we better put the right nominee up against her. Picture the general election debate stage and think very carefully about who you want standing next to Hillary Clinton. Most people can't wait to see a debate between the two of us because they know what's going to happen in that debate. I'll beat her. And we have to start with that. So, when Obama vetoes this thing, don't lose heart. Redouble your efforts. Redouble your efforts to make sure that we win in 2016.
Father, I'm going to invite you to ask a question. We will have, and I'll just add, we'll have the gift of contrast on that day, and that is a political gift beyond anything. We'll just use it, right? Father, do you have a question there for Carly?
Well, just to thank you, Carly. I know you have to get off the phone in about a minute here, but you know, we are all working together in this great movement. As you were giving your remarks, I kept thinking about the man who came up to me on the street at one of our rallies in the Midwest one day, and he said, "Father, if these politicians can't respect the life of a little baby, how are they supposed to respect yours and mine?" And it just goes again to the core of the importance, the foundational importance of this issue. You know that, you realize that, and we thank you for articulating that. My real quick question before you need to leave us, how, in what way can we pray for you? Because we pray for all those who seek and hold elected office. How may we pray for you?
Well, first of all, Father, thank you so much. And I will just tell one little anecdote to give everyone on the phone heart before I answer your very specific question. Every time I visit a pregnancy center, I always ask the media to come, and they always do. And with the mother's permission, the media comes in while a mother-to-be is having her ultrasound. Without exception, the media who come in, most of them, fervently pro-choice. Everyone in the media is impacted by what they see. We are on the right track. The truth shall set you free. To answer your very specific question, I pray every night, and I would ask all of you to pray for me as well, that I finish this journey in the way God intends, because I believe I am on the journey God intends. Pray for my family, for their health, for their patience. This is a family affair. Pray for our courage and our health. But let us all pray together as well that we will restore the character of this nation and take our country back.
Thank you, Carly. We will talk to you again. God bless you and your family.